Ever feel like airplane seats have been shrinking? It's not your imagination. And honestly, the deeper I dug into this, the more shocked I was. I've researched this for weeks, talked to frequent senior travelers, even read airline design reports. And trust me, the shrinking seats are just the start. There are hidden seating tricks most passengers never hear about. And if you miss them, you'll lose comfort other people are quietly enjoying for free. Stay until the end because the last strategy is something I discovered while interviewing a retired airline employee, and it completely changed how I fly. Today, we're counting down 9 senior-focused airplane seating secrets you'll wish you knew sooner. 9. The left side lean advantage. I've always struggled to get a good nap on flights, leaning against the window and waking up with a stiff neck. One day, I overheard a pilot mention that the left side windows sit slightly ahead of the seats compared to the right side. I didn't think much of it at first, but I decided to test it myself on my next flight.
When I chose a left side window seat, I immediately noticed the difference. My head rested more naturally against the wall, and I didn't keep sliding forward or waking up every few minutes. It wasn't a huge change, but it made naps far more comfortable, especially on long flights. Another bonus is a small sense of privacy. The slightly forward position gives a little more space to lean into, which feels surprisingly cozy when you're tired. I've tried this on multiple flights, and every time it helps me rest better. I even mentioned it to friends, and they noticed the same improvement once they tried it themselves. It's a small trick, but for anyone who struggles to sleep on planes, it makes a noticeable difference. And if comfortable sleep matters to you, number 6 is a tip I first learned from a flight attendant, and it's a total game changer. 8. Outsmart seat fees with smart timing. I used to get frustrated paying extra just to pick a normal seat. Window, aisle, or even sitting next to family sometimes costs money. But over time, I noticed a small timing trick that has saved me a lot. The secret is all about checking in at the right moment. One trip, I checked in the minute the window opened, and suddenly there were plenty of free seats. Window, aisle, even rows with extra space. I didn't pay a thing. Curious, I tried it again on the next few flights, and it worked the same way every time. Then I tested the opposite, waiting an hour or two, and all the good free seats were gone. The airline system quickly turns them into paid options, sometimes costing between $20 and $70. So the lesson is clear. If you check in as soon as you can, you get better free choices. Wait even a little, and you miss them. Since discovering this, I always set a reminder before every flight. It's simple, but it works almost every time. I've told friends about it, and many were surprised that such a small step could save money and secure a better seat. A tiny bit of timing can outsmart a huge seat fee system and make your flight way more comfortable. 7. The smart gap row trick. Found this by accident. This is one of those tips I discovered completely by accident, but it has helped me so many times that I now look for it on every single flight. I started noticing it when I compared seat maps on dozens of bookings. I wasn't trying to find anything special, I was just checking which seats were empty or taken. But after a while, a pattern kept showing up. There are certain rows on airplanes that people avoid without even thinking about it. These are the rows that sit right before or right after a cabin divide. For example, the row just before the galley, the row behind business class or premium economy, or the first row of a new cabin section. These are what I call smart gap rows. Most people think these rows are bad because of foot traffic, noise from the galley, or people standing nearby. Because of that fear, these rows tend to fill slowly. Sometimes they even stay half empty until the end.
I started choosing these rows just to test my theory. On about half of my flights, the middle seat in these rows stayed empty. It's not guaranteed, but the chances were much higher than in other rows. I think it happens because passengers prefer a normal row that doesn't look busy on the seat map. Meanwhile, the gap rows look less appealing, so people skip them during seat selection. What surprised me the most is that no one really talks about this trick. I've told a few friends who travel often, and they were shocked that such a simple strategy could actually work. For me, it has become a little secret zone on the plane, where you quietly hope the middle seat stays empty, and many times it actually does. If you're someone who wants more space without paying extra, this is a trick worth trying. And if you want the highest empty seat chances, number 5 is the favorite strategy among senior couples I've spoken to. 6. The overwing stability zone. Turbulence always makes me nervous, so I started paying attention to where people sit during bumpy flights. One day I asked a pilot, "Where would you sit if you hated turbulence?" He didn't hesitate. "Over the wings." That made me curious, so I decided to research why.
I learned that the wings are near the plane's center of lift and gravity, which means this part of the plane moves less when the air gets rough. The front and back of the plane feel more bouncing and shaking because they are farther from this center. Sitting over the wings is like being in the middle of a seesaw. You feel smaller movements. I tried this on my next flight, and I noticed the difference immediately. Even though the plane still shook a little, it felt much smoother and calmer than the rows in front or behind. It wasn't magic, but it was enough to make me feel more comfortable and relaxed. Now, whenever I know a flight might be bumpy, or I just want a calmer ride, I pick a seat over the wings. A few friends I shared this with told me the same thing worked for them. It's a simple trick, but it really helps, especially for seniors or anyone who hates turbulence. 5. The companion split seat gamble. I first heard about this trick from a friend who travels a lot with her husband. She said, "If you want extra space without paying for it, try this." The idea is simple. If you're flying with someone, book the window and aisle seats and leave the middle seat empty. At first, I thought, will it really work? But after trying it on a few flights, I noticed something interesting. Most solo travelers avoid middle seats whenever possible. So when the flight isn't full, the middle seat often stays empty, giving you extra elbow room and a little privacy. I asked a few senior couples I know, and they told me the same thing. Especially if you book early, the odds of getting that empty middle seat go way up. Sometimes it even feels like winning a mini lottery. You get more space for free just because people don't want the middle. Of course, it doesn't always work, and if the flight is packed, the middle seat may get taken. But in my experience, even on flights that were almost full, I've managed to snag empty middle seats several times just by picking the right row and booking early. It's a small trick, but for seniors or anyone who appreciates comfort, those few extra inches make a big difference. I now use this method whenever I fly with a companion, and it almost always gives me more space than standard seating. If these insights are helping, hit subscribe. I've collected dozens of senior travel hacks over the years from pilots, attendants, and frequent travelers. I don't want you missing the ones coming next. 4. The quiet bulkhead trick. I used to think bulkhead seats were always the best choice for extra legroom. On my first few flights, I picked the very first row of a cabin section, thinking I would have all the space I wanted. But almost every time, I ended up next to crying babies or busy families. It was still more space for my legs, but not exactly peaceful. After that, I started paying closer attention to seat maps and trying different rows. That's when I discovered the second bulkhead row, the row right behind the first one. On almost every flight I tried it, I still had extra legroom, but it was much quieter. No babies, no constant foot traffic from families or crew, just a calm row where I could stretch and relax. I also compared this across several airlines, and the pattern stayed the same. The first bulkhead row tends to get all the families with infants because airlines put bassinets there. But the second row is often overlooked by most travelers, which means it fills more slowly. From then on, I always check for that second bulkhead row when I book flights. It's a small detail, but it makes a big difference, especially on long trips. Honestly, this trick has changed how I pick seats. I've told a few friends about it, and they were amazed that something so simple could improve comfort so much. It's a quiet little hack that most people completely ignore, yet it works almost every time.
But nothing compares to tip number 2, something I only learned after talking to an airline customer service rep, and it can completely change your flight experience. 3. Aisle versus window, the senior comfort reality. When I started talking to senior travelers about their favorite airplane seats, I noticed a clear pattern. Almost all of them preferred aisle seats over windows. At first I wondered why, because most people assume the window is better for the view or to lean against. But after asking dozens of seniors, I learned the real reason: movement and easy access. Aisle seats make it so much easier to stretch your legs, get up for the bathroom, or even walk up and down the aisle a little during long flights. Many older travelers told me that being able to move freely is one of the most important factors for comfort, especially on flights that last several hours. When you can stand up whenever you need to, your knees and joints feel better, and you avoid stiffness.
Window seats, on the other hand, are great if you want privacy or uninterrupted rest. I personally like them for naps because I can lean my head on the wall and not worry about someone bumping into me. But the trade-off is that you're stuck if you need to get up frequently. From what I heard, seniors often weigh these pros and cons carefully. My takeaway after hearing all these stories is simple. Pick your seat based on your body's needs, not just habit or the view. If your legs and joints get stiff easily, aisle seats are almost always the smarter choice. If you mostly want to sleep and enjoy the scenery, a window seat can still be great. I've started using this thinking myself, and it has made every flight a little more comfortable. 2. Ask for the mobility-friendly seat. I remember the first time I heard this tip. It completely surprised me. I was talking to an airline customer service representative asking if there was any way to get a better seat without paying extra. Instead of giving the usual advice, she said something simple but powerful. Don't ask for a better seat. Ask for a mobility-friendly seat. At first, I didn't understand what difference a few words could make. But after I tried it myself, I realized it changes everything. When you use this exact phrase, the airline staff often offer seats that aren't shown online. These might be aisle seats closer to the front, or rows with extra space that normally appear unavailable during online booking. It's like a secret pathway to more comfort that most travelers never know about. I started testing this trick on a few flights, politely asking for a mobility-friendly seat due to needing easier access or more room to move. And almost every time it worked. I got seats that I wouldn't have been able to select on my own, without paying anything extra. Some were aisle seats, some were forward rows with extra legroom. It felt like a small secret that made a big difference in comfort, especially on long flights. I shared this tip with some friends who travel often, and they were amazed at how well it worked. They said they had always assumed better seats meant paying for upgrades. But this simple wording got them similar or even better results for free. And now for the ultimate tip, the golden insight I learned directly from a retired gate agent that can truly change how you fly. 1. The gate agent golden window. One of the most valuable tips I've ever learned about flying came straight from a retired gate agent. I was chatting with him about how senior travelers can get better seats, and he said something that really surprised me. Most people completely miss their best chance to choose a great seat.
According to him, the magic time is 10 to 20 minutes before boarding starts. This is when airlines often reshuffle seat maps, passengers cancel or change their seats, and blocked seats, sometimes even premium or aisle seats, open up. Most travelers either check in too early or too late, so they miss these opportunities. But if you pay attention and politely ask at the gate during this window, the chances of scoring a much better seat are much higher. I tried this on my next flight. I arrived at the gate early, waited patiently, and when the gate agent started letting people board, I politely asked if any aisle or forward row seats were available for comfort reasons. To my surprise, they opened a seat that wasn't available online. It was exactly what I wanted: more legroom, easy access, and a calm spot away from traffic.
I've now used this tip on several flights, and almost every time it has worked. It's simple, but it completely changed how I fly. The key is to ask politely and mention a real reason, like mobility or comfort. Most gate agents are happy to help, especially for senior travelers. It's amazing how a small, smart step can turn a regular flight into a comfortable one. Thanks for watching. Your next smooth flight is literally one decision away. Click any of these videos on your screen, and I'll see you in a moment.